big, big buffalo. Or bison, or buffalo, bison, buffalo. This is the Bison Bridge, Buffalo Bridge, and we're right behind the Turkish embassy, and over there is the Romanian embassy. And we're going to take this bridge, also known as the Dumbarton Bridge, into Georgetown. It's also known as the Indian Head Bridge because on the bridge, on the side, are Native American Indian chiefs. Native American headdresses guard this bridge over the Rock Creek Parkway. This is the entrance into Georgetown. Can't really get a better view of those Indians, Native Americans. I'm not whether they're Sioux or something. So there's the parkway. The 11 Pro is actually quite nice. I'm very pleased with the photography, the low light. It's a slight tad, like a few millimeters smaller than my 10. And I can actually feel that in my hand. It feels slightly smaller than the 10, which has been interesting. But I'm not ready to go up to the big max size yet. So there are bison / buffalo at both ends of the bridge. This is the Georgetown side. The other side was DuPont Circle. Into Georgetown we go. So we're at about 27th Street, and Georgetown University is at like 37th Street, which means we got a lot of walking to do if we want to go over to the campus. You guys want to go to the campus today? I'll take that as a yes. So I've been back in DC for a few days, following a trip to Europe. Video will be popping up on my YouTube channel soon. Though some of you watch the Periscopes from Romania. They're back in my feed if you want to catch up with the last week. Today is, I don't know, today is Thursday. Here comes the Georgetown bus. Morning. So we'll go down into the historic parts of Georgetown. This road is not actually that historic at this block. Barnet, North London. Is Barnet like the end of one of the tube lines? Seem to see it. Hey, Japan. Did I go to London? No, not this trip. But I used to work in London. For those who don't know, I'm a season ticket holder to Arsenal. But I don't get back to the Emirates that often. I used to go to Highbury when I was there. Oh, the watch is beeping. Whoa, our exercise circle has been filled. So we've met our exercise goal for the day. It's only, 9 o'clock? Top of the Northern Line. That's why everybody seems to know Barnet, because they're used to taking the subway, and this is the Northern Line to Barnet. It's like Elephant and Castle. A place where most people won't go when they visit London, but they all seem to know the name Elephant and Castle. So we're just joining, we're in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. And we're at 27th Street, making our way to 37th Street, which is where the university is. So we're gonna head over through the old neighborhoods. So over here you see a rental car. This is free to move. And I can scan with the app. I can scan in the code, which is displayed here somewhere, and the license plate code, and boom, I can rent that car and drive it anywhere I want and then just ditch it. It's really cool. Hey, morning. It's kind of like those electric scooters, which you also see all over the city. Those are drive and drop scooters and drive and drop vehicles. So it actually, for some people, it negates the need for owning a car. If you're a single person and you're only driving as the occasionally suburban grocery store trip or whatever, you can just use those rental cars. Yeah, it's really fun. So you just use those drive and drop rental cars to run your errands. And I guarantee we're going to see a half a dozen more of those in the next few blocks. They're all over the city. And so sometimes I go for a walk, and if I get too tired, I'll just jump in one of those cars and drive home and then just park it in front of my house until somebody else takes it somewhere else. Same basic concept as the rental scooters. So let's go house hunting, eh? Let's see what's for rent. The insurance is part of the thing. It's paid for by the car owner. So the car owner has to pay a higher insurance premium on that vehicle than, say, you or I. The government does not ticket them for illegal parking unless they block a rush hour area. So you can just kind of park them everywhere. This guy, however, is going to get a ticket because he parked over the line. Parking enforcement with their license plate readers going around. He's busted. Let's go, what are we on? O Street? I think we're on O, as in ocean. We can go up O Street for a block or two. If you saw the movie Enemy of the State with Will Smith and Gene Hackman, he lived right up here on one of these houses in that movie Enemy of the State, right here on like O Street somewhere. I think it was one of them, that one maybe. Halloween time in America. Hey, welcome to Periscope, Azerty, Mr. Avery or whatever. You are in Washington, D.C. at 28th and O Street Northwest in the Georgetown neighborhood, the hoity-toity Georgetown neighborhood, which abuts Georgetown University in about 9 blocks. And we're going to make our way over to the campus. I think we might go down to the waterfront first. That's a pretty color. I'm into dark blue right now. I'm going to paint my house a little bit more vibrant color than this. Yeah, we're going to walk to the university. No, that's another 7 blocks. It's going to be about 10-15 minutes before we get over to the campus. I used to live on this street 20 years ago. So I used to live on one side of the street before law school, and then I moved back and lived on the other side of the street. There's like 3 Ferraris in this neighborhood. I think they're all Bitcoin guys. So there's one, and the other 2 are on the corner. Parking is at a premium such that you can afford a Ferrari, but you cannot afford a parking space. I kid you not. There's another one. Oh, the other 2 are down here. It is a pretty expensive neighborhood. So those little townhouses you see over there are easily $2 million, because they're probably about 2,000 square feet. So those are $2 million townhouses, maybe 1.7, 2.2. There's the other Ferrari, and then the third one over there. And the big ones here are much more expensive. A very small place can get you, you might get $1 million small place. We'll go down to N as in Nancy, and we'll cut over N Street into Georgetown University. So yeah, all the sidewalks are cobblestoned, which makes it really tricky in the winter. So this place, this beast over here is 10 million US dollars. $10 million. And then this little tiny place across the street. This used to be, when I lived here 20 years ago, this was 300,000 US for that small place. Now it's about 7. So that's literally doubled in value, the little place over there, those little houses. Down on this street is where Ben Bradley used to live, the Washington Post editor during the Watergate crisis. Yeah, crazy. This is now Avril Harriman, who I believe was the daughter or some married a Churchill or something, and then married Ambassador Harriman, lived in this massive house. And I wanted to say this was Ben Bradley's house. Did Avril Harriman marry one of the Churchills? I can't remember. It's like Churchill's son or something. Can't remember if she married it. Something like that. Or he was the ambassador to England, maybe. One of those old blue blood families. She died a while ago. No, it's a great time to go to Hong Kong. The fares are ridiculously cheap. Hotels are cheap. And it's very easy to avoid the troubles. You just got to pay attention to your surroundings. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing ridiculously low fares to Hong Kong. $650. You know, I actually saw 200 round trip from Los Angeles. 198 round trip to Hong Kong from Los Angeles. I kid you not. That was insane. So yeah, $650 is a steal. But you know, honestly, if you're serious about it, look at getting a package with a hotel, because I swear you could probably get a good hotel really cheap. This is a very expensive neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Britt Hume, the Fox News guy, he lives right around one of these corners here. This is where all the political media elite aspire to live. I lived here for a number of years. It's actually fallen downhill a little bit lately because it's hard. The landlords are demanding obscene rents and nobody's moving in, so there's a lot of empty spots. A lot of empty retail down here, and as a result, has kind of a neglected feel. People aren't coming here like they used to. This used to be the place to go out in Washington, D.C. You would go to Georgetown on the weekends. But now there are new areas like the Navy Yard, the Wharf, 14th Street. Those are the more trendy areas. Yeah, it's Washington, D.C. has actually some of the best tree cover of any major metropolitan city in the country. It is a tree city, and if you look at Google Maps from the satellite view, I think you'd actually be shocked at the tree cover. There are whole sections of the city that from a satellite view you simply cannot see because it's covered with trees. So now we're in the retail district. Let's go down by the Apple store. Some rental scooters again. This is an empty storefront here. Empty, something, empty, empty. The landlords here are all waiting for a large chain that is not that familiar with the local real estate economics to come in and overpay for rent, like Ralph Lauren, like Apple, like Sign of the Whale, or not Sign of the Whale, what is that stupid whale clothing place? Lord, I can't even remember. Vineyard Vines. God, I'm losing my mind. Though the fact I couldn't remember Vineyard Vines is not necessarily a bad thing. There's a slight curb. Over there is the East Coast largest Wawa. Yes, claim to fame, the largest Wawa on the East Coast is right over there. Wawa is a grocery or convenience store. Note the homeless and drug addicted in front of it. Yeah, they got like good coffee and sandwiches. Now over there is a bar we can walk over to called Cafe Milano. Cafe Milano is where the beautiful people go. All right, if you want to find Ivanka Trump having dinner with the latest celebrity du jour, you come to Cafe Milano. And it's had that reputation since it opened 20 odd years ago. I've eaten there, meh. Of course, I'm a guy who likes fish and chips, and yeah, it's pricey. I don't eat there regularly. There's actually a Thai place down here. You know, I haven't had Thai food in a long time. I think probably 2 months I haven't had Thai food. I think I should come down here for lunch today. Oh, life is harassing me. Mai Tai. This is called Mai Tai. We are under the flight path of Reagan National Airport. Technically, I don't think it's an international. Though, actually, you know, now that you mention it, I do think there's one flight to the Caribbean, but generally it's referred to as National Airport, as they are limited in distance. They can only fly about 650 miles. Basically, with a few exceptions, they're not allowed to fly past, say, Dallas, Texas. That was done arbitrarily, well, partially arbitrarily, to help encourage the use of Dulles International, and also because of the noise of larger jets coming into this airport would disturb the people here. They do have noise restrictions at this airport, so only certain types of aircraft can take off from National. Ooh, 33rd Street, just a few more blocks until we get to campus. We're in the student section now. So this is also, as we get closer to the campus, a number of these units are no longer occupied by the political social media elite, but by their obnoxious children that go to Georgetown University and have keggers. So the rat problem on this side is much more severe. There's another one of those cars we mentioned, the rental cars. Grass? We mean all these things? These like planter boxes? That's part of the Tree City campaign to keep trees. Yeah, it was a very rough weekend in Hong Kong. And there is no end in sight. The government's going to ban masks, so you can now be arrested for wearing a mask while you commit a crime, like vandalizing or something, rather than being arrested for the underlying crime. We are on our way over there. I don't know where we'll go onto campus, but probably another couple more blocks. Start to see some co-eds walking around. Let's go over to this other street. This other street is prettier than this street. Reminds me I need to send an email to that guy. Georgetown in New Orleans. Might be a Georgetown in New Orleans. I know I think there's a Georgetown, Virginia, and a Georgetown, Texas. The French Quarter in New Orleans is there. Oh, where are we? 34. Oh, moose. Shucks. So down this block is where John F. Kennedy used to live. Before he was president of the United States, when he was just Senator Kennedy, he lived down on that block. And that's where he did all his pre-inauguration announcements from the front step of 3307 N Street, Nancy Street. Are we on? Oh, I think we're on N. We're almost to the campus. Yeah, it would be nice to have a New Zealand fish and chip shop here. Problem is, you just don't have the population density in Washington, D.C. to support small-scale retail. It's still essentially a driving kind of city. the city is limited. Buildings cannot be more than 10 stories tall. So you can't really dense pack a lot of people into a certain neighborhood. And there's no like core area where you have a lot of foot traffic, kind of like you would need for a fish and chip shop, which is frustrating. So coming up to the campus, you can see the spires of the administration building. From Birmingham, okay. So now basically all these buildings we now see are university buildings. And the Office of Alumni Affairs, the Office of Student Discipline, That's a private school over there, a Catholic school. Don't know the name. And then these are student residences down here on the right. So the students live next to the campus. That's why the rat problem is so severe in this neighborhood. Now up here is the library. I'm going to walk up past it and into the campus itself. It is rather large. Shoot. Gotta walk through sprinklers. Now we're on the campus of Georgetown University, the nation's oldest Catholic university. It is a Jesuit school, or as we called it at Notre Dame, a Diet Catholic school. Not as hardcore as our school. He's fixing a broken sprinkler over there. It is very humid today. I'm definitely sweating. It's also very slippery here because it's all water. I need new shoes. Let's cut back through the campus. It's been a university since the 1700s. Controversy right now is that the original founders of the university used to own slaves. And, so That building is mostly administration. I think there's some classrooms. This is a dormitory over here. And then that's a classroom building. Then we'll get into the more modern areas in the medical school. The school is well renowned for its foreign service program. The Georgetown School of Foreign Service is probably amongst the best in the country. Many of our nation's diplomats are educated here. This tree, I didn't see a willow. I don't know what this is. Elm? It's a beautiful tree though, isn't it? Doesn't look like a willow. With these bricks are all wet, I'm discovering how much tread I've lost on my shoes. I have absolutely no traction whatsoever with these shoes on the wet bricks. I'm like shuffling basically. Behind me, oh, there are a few willows over there maybe. Oh man. I literally had no traction at all. That was beyond bizarre. What is it? Oh, it's only 8:30. Cool. I may just get a scooter and scoot home. It was due. It's not rained. It hasn't rained in DC in months. Kind of in a drought. I mean, literally, it's rained like once or twice in the last 2 months, maybe 6 weeks. And thanks for super hard. There's a lot of construction going on down here as they redesign the medical school and hospital center. A lot of benches for sitting out and chatting. Over here is a student center with restaurants and casual hangout places. And then back up there is the hospital. So let's figure out, I think if we go back to the left here, we can get back into the woods. Am I a med student? No. But my niece was. My niece is now a doctor. She finished med school 2 years ago and is now out in the field perfecting her craft. So my niece graduated from med school on a Saturday. Med school was $110,000 US per month, or per year. $110,000 per year to go to med school. She graduated on a Saturday. On a Sunday, we moved her out of her dorm, and on a Monday, she started her internship doing rounds for essentially $15 US an hour. Yep, she was making about $48,000 US a year, working 24-hour shifts. So she basically was making $15 an hour after 3 years of med school at $110,000 per year. Yep, that's pretty crazy. My niece is an ophthalmologist. She's an eye doctor, eye surgeon. I'm not a professor, but my father was a professor. My father was a professor. He's a retired professor now. father was a professor of education. My dad taught teachers, and he also wrote textbooks for kids. So now we're back into more of the residence halls and the new football stadium they're building here on campus. We're going to cut behind the stadium over there by the observatory and go back into the woods. And then we're going to walk through the woods back to my house. I'm Penguin 6, by the way. I used to live in Hong Kong. I've moved to the United States for a year or two. I'm going through reverse cultural shock as I adjust from my rather ideal life in Hong Kong to basically typical American living. It's, being a professor is a mixed bag. You don't actually make a lot of money as a professor. The side business can make you some money if you write books or teach conferences or stuff. There's a lot of people competing to be professors. So the universities don't really have to fight that hard to find someone. What do we got here? It's field hockey. No, it's lacrosse practice. Is it practice or is it scrimmage? Lacrosse. Yeah, the money's not great. The atmosphere can be nice. Oh, she's going to shoot, and she was saved. Now you have to understand, Washington, D.C., Baltimore is the heart of lacrosse country in the United States. Lacrosse is one of the most major prep school and university sports in this part of the country, more so than American football, believe it or not. That's not hockey, that's lacrosse. So you see, they have at the end of the stick, they have a net. Yeah, and they catch the ball in the net, and then they throw it into this goal down here. That's the goal. Lacrosse was a Native American sport that was picked up by Americans, and it is extremely popular. In fact, several Native American tribes continue to field teams. Yeah, it started in Native America. Continue to field teams in the World Cup. So you'll have the U.S. versus Canada versus Australia versus the Apache Nation and the Navajo Nation. They will actually field teams, national teams, for their tribes, as most tribes are considered nations technically, certainly in the eyes of the lacrosse world body. So we're going to go up here, and we'll get a better view of the lacrosse game. Interesting story, lacrosse is actually kind of big in Scotland. Yeah? And do you know why? Lockerbie. All right? So, 20 years ago or so, a Pan Am flight was heading over Scotland and was blown up by Libyan terrorists. On board that flight were dozens of Syracuse University students. Syracuse is one of the top lacrosse teams in the nation. So as part of the healing process to the people of Lockerbie and to the Syracuse community, coaches and teammates from the Syracuse University traveled to the Lockerbie area to teach the local Scottish children the game of lacrosse. Several of them picked it up and actually played for the Scottish national team, direct descendants of the healing efforts of Lockerbie. Isn't that amazing? I know this because I know two of the women who played for the Scottish national team. And both of them were trained while they were kids by Syracuse University lacrosse teachers. Okay, so we're going to cut behind the observatory here. I would love to have an abandoned observatory as my home. It just says evil lair. Yeah? I mean, it is like the perfect building for an evil lair. Yeah? This is like a little wedding chapel area. So back here we're going to go to where the students go to like hang out off campus outside the prying eyes of their rectors and priests. And then we're going to cut through the woods. Another observatory. Oh. All right, so guys, now it's jungle time. For the next half hour, you're not going to see anything but trees. Trees and leaves. Assuming that is, I can find my way to where I'm going. This path isn't very well marked. Should come back here with a weed whacker one day. Oh yeah, we will probably see some deer, some white-tailed deer. They're pretty common back here. All right, I went that way last time. I'm gonna go this way this time. Hello. So the woods that you see here are basically American deciduous forest, standard American deciduous forest. These woods are used for most American horror films where things come out of the trees. And I'm told many American porn films are also filmed in the woods. I'm just told that. I don't know that for a fact, but I'll just take people's word on that. So as we walk back here, we're either going to be confronted by grisly scenes of horror or something else. Oof. All right. So a lot of you say, how do you not get lost? And the fact of the matter is, I don't know exactly where I am at this moment. I know where I was, and I know where I'm going, and I kind of think these two things link together. But, you know, we're just going to have to play it by ear. Hello, England. Welcome to Washington, D.C. You are in a forest paralleling Georgetown University. We're going to go past the French embassy, but you won't really see anything. Then we're going to go past a bunch of apartments. Again, you won't really see anything. And if we're lucky, we'll find some deer, which it may be some deer here, because they're kind of bouncy, prouncy all over the place. And I think it's like mating season, so the deer are all in heat, which means they're all pretty stupid running around. We don't need roads. We do, however, need a path, and we're not really sure where the path is. I'm going to go with this being the path. There is a stream somewhere over here. It's not really a steady stream. There's more of like, there is, but they like, there's a stream, but then they put it in a pipe. Yeah, some big urban planner said, oh, you know what? This park would be just perfect if it had a 40-inch cement pipe running down the middle of it where we could put all the overflow water. Rather than having a natural creek, which has cleansing properties and can feed the wildlife, let's just put in a big pipe. So that's what we're going to see in a minute. It's a big pipe. Oof. He is jogging pretty quick. Perhaps there's something chasing him. Perhaps I should turn around and look. But then I might be scared. I prefer those glasses that they had in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that just go totally black when something bad is about to happen. So you don't see it. It's interesting. I've read some reviews of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and how it's incredibly popular in England, but it's still rather a cultish book here in the United States, and it gets to a very core difference of humor, the type of humor employed in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Not even that, the type of hero, the anti-hero of Arthur Dent, is simply not the same as the American style humor. Basically, Arthur Dent is a guy who, while he has great dreams and aspirations and all that, realizes who he is and he just gets by with what he can. It's just a matter of like, always look at the bright side of life, take what you can get, don't push too hard, which is kind of a British reserve, a British mentality, don't shoot too hard, just deal with what you got. Life isn't perfect, make lemonade, get on with it. Unlike the American hero, which is like, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, smash the mountains, I want this. This is how it's going to be, and this is the world I will take and make for myself. And they're very different types of heroes. So in some regards, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a much more British book than it appears on the surface. And as a result, it's popular in the United States, and science fiction guys have loved it and quoted it for thousands of years. But it's not like a runaway must-read book. I dare say a larger percentage of British school kids have read Hitchhiker's Guide than American kids, with the exception of the science fiction geeks like myself. All right, we're coming up on Reservoir Road. This is where the French Embassy is going to be, just over in those trees. The French Embassy is pretty cool. They actually let you in to go to movies or dinner or soccer matches. They have plays and performances. They have a very large cultural outreach section at the French Embassy in Washington, D.C. So it's actually pretty easy to go over there. Reminds me I should get back to learning French. I was doing Duolingo for French, but I just kept saying, ils sont riches. The kids, mes amis sont riches. Everybody's rich except me. It is soft power. There are those who assert that MTV had as much to do with the fall of the Soviet Union as Reagan's defense policies. That's something the West has in abundance: soft power, the power to change minds, to influence debates without actually having to do it. Meanwhile, yesterday I watched the Communist Party's 70th anniversary parade. There was no soft power on display there. It was pretty frightening. It was Cold War-esque, North Korea stuff. Okay, so, there's a smart car I could steal. Okay. I never know where the bloody intersection is. I'm gonna, shoot. Alright, let's just go up the intersection. It's probably safer. DC drivers are notoriously obnoxious, especially early in the morning. This is a traffic camera. Look at that. That's a speed camera. Bastards. Alright. I'm crossing. That was a diplomat. So that car that I put my hand out, he was a diplomat. Technically, he could have run me over if he felt like it. Because diplomats have diplomatic immunity from prosecution. The other one, however, he just was being a jerk, speeding. Really need to put lights on those crosswalks. Yes, pedestrians have right of way, but unlike England, where cars actually stop and go out of their way to stop for pedestrians, here pedestrians are more of a nuisance. That you stop if you can feel like it, if not, well, it's life. England, they slow down from like 40 kilometers an hour to 0 in a heartbeat if there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk. It's tricky for Americans to drive. They don't think about those things like they do. I actually think they should put LED strips on the sidewalk or on the walkway. And if a pedestrian is there, it should just like light up. That would be really cool. They do that in China. So they've got these crosswalks in China that have LED lights embedded in the concrete. And when pedestrians come out, they light up. Yeah, it's more of a sport. Everything favors drivers in America. It's really quite frustrating. That's actually something I worry about because, so my father's getting elderly. He'll be 80 pretty soon. And he lives in a town where the nearest grocery store is like a mile and a half away by car. What's going to happen when he can't drive anymore? I'm like, good Lord. It's a real concern. So you guys were asking about the creek, and this is the old creek bed, pre-pipe. We're going to go walk on the pipe now. If you're just joining, we're just trying to get my Apple Watch to close the circles. We've already got the exercise circle, the moving circle we're still working on, and the standing circle takes 12 hours, so we won't get that one until much later tonight. Whew, it's warm. Again, as I mentioned, this is a deciduous forest, common filming location for horror films and or pornography movies. If you hear a scream and the camera goes black, it's one of those two reasons. They don't have Instacart where my dad lives. What do I miss most about Hong Kong? Tough one. I mean, of course I miss food and I miss my friends and stuff like that. But I think I miss the sense of community that we had in Hong Kong, how everything was so close together, how I would run into people I know every single day in a city of 7.5 million people. And I also miss, and everyone misses this, the vibrancy of Asia, the electricity, the excitement, just the joie de vivre. There's a buzz about cities in Asia that simply doesn't exist here in the U.S. It's more of a din or a drone or whereas in Asia, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Seoul, Bangkok, it's just popping. It's just bum, bum, bum. And that is very addictive, very, very addictive. And when that's gone, you really notice it's missing. Yeah, he's going to have to start ordering groceries online. In fact, to wit, I just gave my father a new iPhone. My father has resisted the urge for smartphones, well, for mobile phones in general. And then my plan came up for renewal, and they said, if you get 4 lines, you can have a 5th line for free. I said, really? They said, if you trade in an old phone, we'll give you a new phone for free. I'm like, really? So, got a new phone and got a free line for him, which was kind of cool. There's always been a buzz in Hong Kong and Asia before even China was open. Cities like Tokyo and Seoul and Hong Kong was British. Just had this energy and excitement level that's unparalleled. My mother was like, oh, well, why don't you move to a city that's like Hong Kong, but here in the United States? And I just laughed. I'm still laughing. It's like, Mom, that doesn't exist. There's kind of a 1950s America attitude going on in Asia right now. Like anything is possible if we just build more highways and more dams and bridges and power plants and spaceships and whatever. In fact, it said, if you want the American dream today, move to China. The idea of starting with nothing and making everything, and nothing is impossible, is very much alive in China. The buzz is in part due to population density. It's because everybody is on top of each other and everybody's around, but it's also because they are still building. There are still things to be done in those countries. I don't know what's going to happen to Hong Kong. Everybody was hoping that they would just kind of go away and be quiet again, like happened in Occupy, but they're really showing no signs of that. They've arrested thousands, and still thousands more come on the streets. What's saying? New York Times did a piece about the American dream being alive and well in China. It was about 8 months ago. If you go look in the New York Times archives, you can find this. They did like a 3-part series dealing with Chinese who have moved overseas. You are in Glover Archibald Park. This is a park that parallels Wisconsin Avenue in Washington, D.C. It's a small park, a few hundred acres, and this is a path that walks from Georgetown University, where we were earlier, up to my house by the National Cathedral, where we're headed. Oh, 50s America, yeah. It is. I mean, I'll give you an example. In Hong Kong, while I was there, they opened a new bullet train station, 2 new subway lines. They're building a 3rd runway at the airport. They're building a second train tunnel, or a 3rd or 4th train tunnel under the harbor. It's just constantly build, dig, and make more stuff. I recall during the economic crisis in 2008, the United States and China both passed stimulus bills, yeah? Vancouver, I don't know about that. I do try to walk every day. Now, in the United States, the money was used, quote, to repave existing highways. So they took the money and they just repaved some of the existing highways. And that was the stimulus, all right? Basically, the only people who got money out of that were the guys who paved the roads. Yeah, great. Now, in China, they built a new bridge between 2 factory towns. They cut the delivery time from 6 hours to 25 minutes to get from the factories to the port, all right? Now, who got the stimulus benefit out of that? Everybody, yeah, everybody. Not just the guys who built the dumb thing, but all the factories who cut their delivery times, increased their shipments, etc. So it was just that kind of attitude is more common over there than was done over here. Sorry. I do try to walk every day. Asking questions is fine. Just remember, I am walking slightly uphill, so I am a tad winded every now and then. This is